Hi everybody, I just wanted to keep reading our chapter, so I'll try to read a chapter a day, and then you guys can watch it and listen to where you were. We left off, this was Barnstorm Anderson, and he was the athlete, and that's where we left off. I can take a hint. I'm a golden eagle, but not really. What have I done for them lately? If I can't put points on the board today, I'm dead to them. Not even Ribbit can change that. I keep on hobbling, head held high. I'll die before I let them see I care. It stinks that just moving across the cafeteria has to be a major operation. The way I could move used to be what made me who I am. I guess that means I'm nobody, at least till next year. Another problem. I've hung out with jocks for so long, I've got nowhere else to go. I set my lunch down next to Aldo and Raheem. As I lean my crutches against the side of the table, one of them tips over and whacks Aldo in the shoulder. "Hey," he barks angrily. "Chill out. It was an accident." It wasn't an accident. In my athlete days, my mind was always on the field or on the court, jucking and cutting, flaking imaginary defenders out of the jockstraps. Now that I'm off sports, I don't do that anymore, and my poor mind has nothing to focus on. So I spend my time thinking of ways to get a rise out of Aldo. It's almost too easy. Aldo is half-heartedly eating a bowl of split pea soup while gazing over at Kiana, who's a few tables away, sitting with Mateo and Parker. That's the rest of SC-S8, except for Elaine, who eats alone, surrounded by a buffer zone of empty tables. People have been keeping their distance from her ever since she chucked this kid into the salad bar. Even in the lunchroom, Elaine rhymes with pain. While Aldo is staring at Kiana, I reach over and dump half a shaker of black pepper into a soup. I can't help it. It's almost not my fault. Raheem snickers and doodles a napkin sketch of Aldo with smoke coming out of his ears. Meanwhile, Kiana catches Aldo looking at her. Embarrassed, he tries to pick up a soup bowl and guzzles what's left of it, pepper and all. A split second later, a green geyser of pea soup sprays across the room, propelled by a scream. "What did you do that for?" he rasped. I can't answer because I'm laughing too hard. So is Raheem. When Aldo sees the napkin sketch, he stabs at it with his spoon, which snaps in half. That gets us a caution from the lunchroom monitor, who raises the quiet alert level from green to amber on the traffic signal in front of the cafeteria. "You've got to tone it down, man," I manage, fighting to control my laughter. "Everything makes you fly off the handle." "Not true," he bellows in my face, and the traffic signal goes to red. Now nobody's allowed to talk for the rest of lunch, and it's all Aldo's fault. Raheem and I exchange a fist bump under the table. Afterward, when we're walking back to room 117, everybody else is walking, I'm thumping on my crutches. I can't resist rubbing a little more salt in Aldo's wounds. "Kiana was watching you the whole time," I assure him. "She probably thinks you're nuts or something." "Did I ask you to put a pound of pepper in my soup?" he demands. "Okay, but you don't have to get so mad about it. You're mad at me. You're mad at Raheem. You're mad at the cafeteria for changing the chicken nugget recipe. You're mad at Ribbit." "I'm not mad at Ribbit," he mutters. "You said before you were." "Yeah, well, I changed my mind." "Fine, I agree. Everything makes you mad except Ribbit." And I stop bugging him because I keep thinking about Mr. Kermit, fighting with the office to get me in the pep rally. Back in room 117 with the rest of the class, we can't help noticing the bright green azalea bent double stick out of our teacher's trash can. "If Ribbit thinks he can get rid of all those things one at a time," puts in Raheem, "he's in for a really rough spirit week." "I can't understand what makes him tick," puts in Kiana. "Most of the time he never opens his mouth, but blow a vivolza and he'll scream at you in an opera." "They make him mad," I say with a wink at Aldo. "He's the Grinch," Mateo pipes up suddenly. "I thought he was Squidward," Parker reminds him. Mateo shakes his head. "The Grinch, definitely. The Grinch hates Christmas because he can't stand the noise." "Well, Mr. Kermit hates Spirit Week because he can't stand the vivolza." "Everybody hates something," I retort. "I don't like lima beans. Am I the Grinch, too?" "It's not just what you hate, it's why you hate it," Mateo replies seriously. Indiana Jones hates snakes because he's afraid of them. Superman hates kryptonite because it's his weakness. The Wicked Witch of the West hates water because it makes her melt. But Mr. Kermit and the Grinch are both haters for the same reason: noise. Ribbit comes in, and the first thing he sees is all of us staring into the wastebasket at the broken Vivazalea. He seems annoyed at first, but then his expression changes to one of sympathy. I have some bad news about Spirit Week. It's okay, Mr. Kermit, Kiana interrupts. We know you tried your best to talk the principal into letting us be part of it. Let me tell you about Spirit. The teacher comes alive, making eye contact with each one of us as he speaks. No one can command you to have spirit. Not principals, governments, presidents, or even kings. There's no spirit switch in your brain that can be flipped on or off. Spirit Week isn't a week you can put on your calendar. It doesn't come from posters or streamers or rallies or funny hat days. And definitely doesn't come from making an ungodly racket with cheap plastic instruments of torture that was invented purely for disturbing the peace. It's the most he's said to us all year. I can't explain it, but it feels like kind of a breakthrough. Although what we're breaking through to, I have no clue. Maybe it's this. In all my years in school, I've never heard a teacher say something that was so completely, totally honest. Okay, so tomorrow I'll read Chapter 12, Parker Elias.